Okay, I was asked to do a quick video on the ordering of operations, so let me do that now. The operations will be located here. Raster, engrave, and cut is the default ordering, circa 0.6.0. So when you're here, if you hit this button, it will do each of these and do them in order. But if you don't want them done in that order, or if you want to say just run engrave by itself, you can do a couple different things. You can right click, and if you say execute job there, it will only run the engrave. It'll still do the various things that you asked for, or you can just run the cut, and it will do the optimize for the cuts, and then do the remaining things. You can reorder them. So say if you wanted to engrave before your raster, if you drag this one up here, you'll know how to engrave first and then raster. You can also remove just that operation, and now when you run, it'll do raster and cut, and then when you execute, it'll run those in order. So you can right click and execute the jobs in whatever order you want. If you say clear all, they're all out of these. It'll give you just the raster job and cut job, but when you load up here, executing this won't execute anything because they're empty. In fact, it crashed. But if you drag items in here, and now your cut job will just be these jobs, and then say you drag in a raster thing, and you can drag between the different elements. So this, if you say execute job, you'll get a raster job. Execute cut. Also in 0.6.0 there are key commands. So if you check out the key map commands, these don't save yet, but has this, which is raster, engrave, and cut. So your Alt R, your Alt E, and your Alt C. So I got rid of my engrave jobs. So if I do Alt E on my keyboard, say I want to select this one, and then I do Alt E, it will put them in an engrave job. And since I want that before the cut, I will drag it up here. And now I have raster, engrave, and cut. And say I drag this one back here. And let's say that I just hate the order, like I've messed this up super bad. If I right click here and say reclassify operations, it will reclassify everything, so it'll go back to the original raster, engrave, and cut. This is going to change significantly in 0.6.1, but for now this is the way that it runs. And yeah, so if you just want to run your raster directly, you execute job, it'll make that an image and then beep afterwards. And for cut, you say execute job, and it'll go there. You can also add in things like an interrupt. So say you get cut and then beep and then interrupt, and then say execute commands. It should start doing the raster, or it's doing a cut rather. And so when it's done with the cut, it'll do that. So I say execute job here, and I say start job. It should pop up and say spooling interrupted, press OK to continue. I already queued up the engrave, so you can access the spooler, which you can't right now. Once you hit OK, then it jumps into the next thing and starts doing the engrave. So in the operations there, so in the operations you can add in an interrupt, which will stop it until you hit OK. You can also toss in a wait. I think it's a 1 second wait or something, maybe it specifies. And then the sort of automatics. And this is how you would interrupt between two different processes. Say if you wanted to do one and then you want to make sure that you don't jump into the next one right away, you add that in there. So right now it's doing the engrave. Any other major things? Yeah, so also if you grab this one, I'm going to do Alt R for turning this into a raster job. So now I have multiple raster jobs, and if I change the speed on this one, say I make it go 200, then I have a raster job that runs at 200, a raster job that runs at 45 apparently. I don't know why my thing's set that low, but sure. It'll default to what you had before. So since my raster jobs are this speed, if I drag this thing over here and then I set another raster job, it'll set it at 200 because it saves between the different things. But that's mostly it. The elements are just the items that you're doing, the sort of vector shapes, scalar shapes. Somehow I did Control R and did a rectangle. You can also select them, and in F12, you can say cut, and then it'll make this into a cut command because it's the one that's selected. And so it creates another cut job, and you can create jobs like that. Really, it's intended for the modifications in 0.6.1, but yeah. So you create any operations you want, you run them in whatever order, and then they spool together in the spooler. So once you have like a raster job, engrave job, cut job, it'll just keep going down the list and then jump to the next item as it needs. All right. Hope that answers the question.